The following program, NORML Show Live, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate for the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate or encourage any illegal activity and advise all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws by visiting norml.org, NORML.org. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers of NORML Show Live are their own and do not necessarily reflect the philosophy and policies of NORML. Listener discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot. All right?
From the promise of legalization.
And I think we need to think and criminalize our marijuana laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws presents NORML Show Live, Marijuana Nation. Now, here's your host, NORML's Outreach Coordinator, Radical Russ Belville.
Good afternoon, tokers and tokettes. It is Monday, March 7th, 2011, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Thanks for being here with us for the next 60 minutes of news, talk, interviews, information, music, comedy, and more by, for, and about the cannabis community. Followed up with another hour of Toker Talk Radio live here at Stickum. Thanks for being here. Hey, showing a little solidarity today. It's not Casual Monday. Showing some solidarity with my peeps in Wisconsin, Wisconsin out there. All you folks that are demonstrating and standing up for what you believe in, we support that. And this is from the Great Midwest Harvest Festival out there in Madison, Wisconsin. A great place to be if you're looking for a hemp fest in the Great Midwest. Also joining us here in the studio, of course, is the co-pilot Ganja John.
What's up, Russ? I tried to turn on Carrie there.
Yeah, I know. Hey, you were up in, was it Seattle? Where is this?
Seattle, Emerald City Comic-Con.
Hey, show folks what you got here. Got some great art that we got to show off. You know, we're big fans of Carl Sagan here at the show. Carl Sagan was a daily toker, a big supporter of marijuana and cannabis relegalization. Great little comic art there. Says, "We are made of star stuff."
I love Carl Sagan. I had to have it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Also joining us from our virtual studio in beautiful Astoria, Oregon is our own Cannabis Carrie.
Happy Monday, guys.
Hi, Carrie. How was your weekend?
Oh, it was great. It's pledge drive here at my little station that I do the show on, so I did lots of pledge drivey type things.
Oh, that's always got to be a whole lot of fun. All right. Hey, today's show, we got some great stuff for you. First of all, we've got our hemp headlines with Cannabis Carrie, followed by Cannabis Carrie's Roots Monday. She does double duty on Monday. Today we got some music from Lipbone Redding, the land of drunk and stoned. And then at past, I'm so excited to bring you this interview. We spoke today with John Popper from Blues Traveler. He's working with our Mile High NORML chapter out of Denver, Colorado. He's got a concert that he's performing on Thursday at the Sodo Club in Colorado Springs, and he asked Mile High NORML to join him there to help promote marijuana legalization. We've got a long conversation with John Popper coming up at past the hour, plus a little music from the Hempulation album that he donated for marijuana legalization. But of course, we always start with the hemp headlines. Carrie, what do we got in the news today?
Well, today we've got a follow-up on Gil Kurlikowski's visit to the Seattle Times. Also, a landmark justice reform bill coming out of Kentucky. We've got some news on the organizer who does the annual Hash Bash in Michigan. Also, if we can fit it in, Montana legislative update and a story from the Department of That Didn't Take Long.
All right. I'm looking forward to that one, I'm telling you. All sorts of good stuff coming up on today's show. Make sure you stick around, and if you don't catch it all, you can catch it on the replays at 3, 5, 7, and 9, or download us from the Stash blog or from iTunes. Just look for the NORML Daily Audio Stash. We're right back after this.
You're listening to NORML Show Live, the voice of the marijuana nation.
In today's today's busy world, we're inundated by advertising for all types of pharmaceuticals that come with a laundry list of potential side effects. Shouldn't you have better medical choices? Natural alternatives to pills pushed by Big Pharma? At Alternative Medical Choices, you could choose natural, safe, and effective alternative therapies that are right for your budget without nasty side effects. Cannabis, or marijuana, has been a legal medicine in the Pacific Northwest since 1998. Our doctors will help determine your qualifications for a medical marijuana recommendation in Oregon, no matter where you live. Our massage therapists will ease your aches and stress with soothing hemp seed oil or cannabis-infused massage salves. We also offer acupuncture, Reiki, and other alternative health therapies. Call Alternative Medical Choices in Portland, Oregon at 503-288-5579 or visit our website at www.altmedchoices.com. We specialize in out-of-state recommendations. That's www.altmedchoices.com or call 503-288-5579.
NORML National Conference 2011, Denver, Colorado, April 21st through 23rd.
I'm not a crook.
When President Nixon declared war on marijuana smokers, NORML was founded by a young lawyer named Keith Strop. And now, in our 40th year, NORML is coming of age as states begin discussing outright marijuana legalization.
Entirely legitimate topic for debate.
Join us in Denver, Colorado, the day after 420 for our 40th annual national conference. You'll learn about marijuana law, cannabis science, and the grassroots activism necessary to end prohibition. Set in the Mile High City, America's cannabis capital. Special guests include medical marijuana pioneer and Harvard emeritus Dr. Lester Grinspoon, U.S. Congressman Jared Polis, and NORML founder Keith Strop. NORML National Conference 2011, coming of age in Denver, Colorado, April 21st through 23rd. It's the true Rocky Mountain High.
Medical marijuana, industrial hemp, consumer cannabis. It's time for this week's NORML News with Cannabis Carrie.
In a story we have been closely following here on The Stash, current U.S. drug czar and the former Seattle police chief, Gil Kurlikowski, met with the Seattle Times editorial board on Friday. The Seattle Times had published an editorial piece last month that called for the end of prohibition of marijuana, beginning with individual states to push for the acceptance from the federal government. The Seattle Times called for Washington State to take the lead in this fight and endorse the current bill in the state to legalize cannabis for adults. Shortly after the Times ran the piece, U.S. drug czar Kurlikowski announced that he would be visiting the Emerald City, and he wanted to make a stop by the Seattle Times headquarters to meet with the editor and the editorial board. He said the main focus of his visit was to talk about the issue of prescription drug abuse, but found everywhere he went in Seattle, people wanted to talk about marijuana. In the afternoon meeting with the Seattle Times staff, he voiced that he doesn't think that legalization arguments will hold up to scrutiny. He reiterated the Obama administration's position against legalization, but said that the National Drug Control Strategy had tried to shift the debate to, quote, looking at the drug problem as a public health problem. He said that President Obama has asked for increased drug treatment funding while money for interdiction is stagnant. He made light of the speculation of cannabis reform advocates that he had been dispatched by the White House to pressure the Seattle Times for its endorsement of marijuana legalization, saying to them, I was going to shake my finger at you. And he also told them he ended the war on drugs when he took office 2 years ago, joking, I just don't know how you missed that. He called proposals to legalize and tax marijuana misguided and told the board if legalization is a way to fund the county, states, and the cities, I think we're making a significant mistake when we think it's just a benign drug. He noted that the Montana State House is voting to repeal their medical marijuana law and said that there is a definite backlash against the medical marijuana movement. Outside of the meeting, about 25 protesters had gathered in support of the Times editorial position with signs that read things like, Gil, get with the Times. A rare moment that protesters picketed in favor of the newspaper. The meeting lasted about an hour and Gil was off to reiterate his position on marijuana. The Seattle Times wasn't the only stop on Kurlikowski's no legalization tour. He stopped by a few radio stations for some morning interviews and was the keynote speaker at the convention of the Seattle-based Science and Management of Addictions Foundation.
Wow. You know, these statements by Gateway Gil Kurlikowski are just ridiculous on their face. I love the one where he says here, the war on drugs is over. We stopped looking at it as a criminal justice issue alone. Right. Alone. They use criminal justice as well as other things, but mostly criminal justice. The same Bush-era ratios that we had, 2-to-1 funding for interdiction and imprisonment versus treatment and rehabilitation. 2-to-1, it's still the ratio that we have today. And the thing here is, in responding to this, the Seattle Times asked him about this, and he said the reason why is because half of the users who go into treatment, quote, have to be encouraged, end quote. Have to be encouraged. Yeah, it's even worse for marijuana consumers. Let me tell you about how they're encouraging us. 57% of all admissions to marijuana treatment are forced there by the criminal justice system. Only 15% of the people who go into rehab for marijuana actually thought to themselves, you know what? I'm using too much pot. I got a problem with it. I need some help. 57% are sent there because they got caught with a bag and the court says you can choose between treatment or jail. So, of course, you're going to pick treatment. And then the drug czar will say, see, look at all these people going into treatment for marijuana. It's such a problem. We need to arrest more people. Furthermore, 37% of the people that are in this marijuana rehab hadn't even used cannabis in the month before going to rehab. Yeah, that's how deadly, dangerous, addictive it is. More than a third of the people going to rehab for it aren't even using it when they go to rehab. And furthermore, another 16% of them had used cannabis 3 or fewer times before going to rehab in the month before rehab. 3 or fewer, right? So a guy who might be smoking pot once a month, he's got a problem. We need to send him to rehab. He's the guy that needs to be taking up a bed that a meth addict or a heroin addict or a cocaine addict could be using. Furthermore, he went on to say that he couldn't figure out whether or not it would be worth it to end prohibition, because really there is no argument for keeping prohibition. 52% of the arrests in the war on drugs are for marijuana. 46% of all arrests in the war on drugs are for marijuana possession alone. Taxation and regulation of marijuana would reap about $15 billion in law enforcement savings and tax revenues. You'd be hard-pressed to find $15 billion worth of harm being caused by the people who are using cannabis right now. And finally, the last thing that he came up with here, when we talk about marijuana being an economic solution for our struggling states, they always want to go back to that Rand Corporation study. Oh, the Rand Corporation said that legalizing marijuana wouldn't hurt the Mexican cartels as bad as you said it would. Yeah, but it would hurt them. That is the underlying premise of that Rand Corporation survey. Whether we're talking about it being 60% of their revenues or 16% of their revenues or 6% of their revenues or even 0.6% of their revenues, it doesn't matter. The Rand Corporation study shows that if a state legalizes marijuana, that state is no longer in play for the Mexican criminal cartels. Drug czar Kurlikowski, your pants are on fire and we all know it, but it's really not your fault. It is your job to oppose all marijuana legalization, no matter how logical it would be to end prohibition.
Kentucky Governor Steve Beshear signed a landmark justice reform bill late Thursday that is aimed at decreasing the state's prison population and reducing incarceration costs. It is hoped that the bill will also reduce crime while increasing public safety. Governor Beshear says the bill is just the latest effort in the last 3 years of aggressive efforts to bring common sense to Kentucky's outdated penal code. House Bill 463 will reduce prison time for low-risk, nonviolent drug offenders and will reinvest the savings from the reduced prison costs into more drug treatment opportunities for any offenders that need help. House Bill 463 is the work of years of study and had strong bipartisan support from an interbranch task force that included legislatures, the Chief Justice, prosecutors, local officials, and members of the Justice Cabinet. It was guided by advice from the Pew Center on the States that conducted studies on Kentucky's prison population and judicial codes. Republican Senator Tom Jensen, the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, called it the most significant and meaningful piece of legislation that he has ever worked on, saying that they had gotten off to a great start but will continue working to make things better where they can. House Bill 463 reduces the penalty for possessing up to a half a pound of marijuana from a Class A misdemeanor and a possible year in jail to a Class B misdemeanor with a 45-day jail maximum. It will also allow police to use discretion to avoid arresting someone solely for marijuana possession. Police can now issue a citation and a summons to appear in court instead. According to the task force, House Bill 463 is estimated to save the state of Kentucky $422 million over the next decade.
Wow, this one kind of slipped under the radar. I wasn't even aware this was up, but amazing. It's not decrim per se, because it's still a crime. You can still get a criminal record, and you can still do time in jail. But really, a half pound of marijuana from a Class A misdemeanor in a year to a Class B misdemeanor, 45 jail max, and no arrest, this is amazing.
Adam Brook, the Royal Oak, Michigan man who has organized Ann Arbor's annual hash bash for the last 2 decades, is facing charges from a February 22nd arrest. Brooks, a medical marijuana patient, is considered by many Michiganders as a leader in the effort to legalize marijuana for all adults. He was charged with 8 felony counts, including possessing more than a pound of marijuana, which is well over the 2.5 ounces allowed in the Michigan medical marijuana law. Brooks had a pending lawsuit against the city of Royal Oaks, which challenged the city's new medical marijuana ordinance. He says that his arrest has prompted him to drop his lawsuit. Brooks' home was raided in January, where the Oakland County Narcotics Enforcement Team found marijuana, some marijuana edibles, a sheet of paper with names and prices, 2 handguns, and a shotgun, all loaded, according to court papers. There was also a triple beam scale and a bulletproof vest. Brooks, who is 42 now, pleaded not guilty in the district court in Royal Oaks on Friday to 1 count of manufacturing and delivering marijuana, 3 counts of being a felon in possession of a firearm, and 4 other firearms charges. He is free on a $5,000 bond and is facing a preliminary exam on March 22nd. The annual Hash Bash has been organized by Brooks for 20 years now and is held on the University of Michigan's campus. Last year, the smokeout drew 5,000 attendees. Brooks said that he is moving forward on plans to hold this year's Hash Bash as scheduled on April 2nd.
Well, I sure hope it does go down as planned, but once again, it brings up something, my advice to people out there: be an activist or be a smuggler, right? Be an activist or be a marijuana dealer, marijuana grower, marijuana cultivator on a large scale. Because really, the 2 jobs don't quite go together, right? Activist means being high profile, being known by everyone for marijuana. Everybody knows you're about pot. Being a smuggler or someone on the underground market is the opposite of that. I don't want anyone to know I'm growing. I don't want anyone to know what I'm doing. I need to keep it on the down low. Activist, smuggler, make your choice. Because remember, when you get to these positions of power, when you're starting to organize these events, a lot of people are depending on you, and you're risking not only yourself, but a lot of the movement and a lot of these events by engaging in these tactics. Just try to keep these things separate, okay, guys?
And just an alert on the Montana legislative calendar, the Senate has been handed House Bill 161 that passed the State House last month by a vote of 62 to 37. The bill is aimed to completely repeal Montana's medical marijuana law that was passed in 2004 by 62% of the voters. The law and testimony will be heard on this Friday at 8 a.m. in the Senate Judiciary Committee, Room 303. Montana activists are gearing up to attend the meeting, and federal medical marijuana patient Irvin Rosenfeld is scheduled to fly into Montana on Thursday so he can attend the hearing on Friday morning. Rosenfeld is then staying in Montana for over a week so he can attend cannabis-supportive events that are planned in Billings, Helena, and Great Falls. You can find out more information about Friday's hearing and the other rallies of support in Montana at montananormal.org.
This is it, folks. You got to get involved here. If you're in the state of Montana, this is do or die time, crunch time. Get in touch with montananormal.org and make your voice heard.
And from the department of that didn't take very long, dispensaries in California started selling marijuana called, you guessed it, Charlie Sheen. Several outlets had the Charlie Sheen marijuana last week, and they say that the demand is high. It sells for $70 for a quarter and $400 for an ounce. The new medical marijuana product promises to have you sheening your head off in no time. Demand has been so great that growers have been asked to produce more Charlie Sheen to stock in the California outlets.
Sure. Like we've been breeding this. We've been working on this. We took some AK-47. We took some No, they just took something they got and they called it Charlie Sheen.
It was originally called 2.5 Men.
Yeah, maybe so.
It was swag.
It was swag, yeah. 70 a quarter, 400 an ounce. Well, it better be some, definitely be sheening. Maybe they put tiger blood in the fertilizer. Maybe that's how it works.
Well, did you hear the new joke?
No.
How much cocaine does it take to kill How much cocaine does it take to kill Charlie Sheen?
I don't know.
2.5 Men.
Oh, no.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
Terrible joke. The Charlie Sheen strain. Hey, if anyone out there in California manages to get a hold of any of the Charlie Sheen strain, please do a review of it for us. Let us know here. You can email us, russ@normal.org, john@normal.org. We'd love to hear about it.
I'd like to hear the genetics of it.
Yeah,
what it actually is.
Yeah, what actually is the Charlie Sheen strain? Is it a cross with something? It'd be very interesting to find out. By the way, in Charlie Sheen news, he started a Ustream show, kind of like what we do here with a webcam and all that. In 2 days, he's had 100 million views. Now, we've had our show here for 14 months, and we just topped 1 million views, so we're winning just a little slower.
Well, now that you bummed me out, let's take a break.
Well, I mean, that's how we roll, man. We're not on the Sheen, man. We're on the weed. It's a little slower and more mellow, man.
Mellow.
We're going to take a break and enjoy some of this New York diesel. We'll be right back with Cannabis Carry and Roots Monday.
It's 20 after the hour, and we have to take a short break, if you know what I mean. Please support these sponsors who support Normal Show Live.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would say to South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
Legalize it. Don't criticize.
This is Peter Tosh for NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Did you know that more than 400,000 Americans were arrested last year for the possession of marijuana? People are being sentenced to up to 40 years for even standing beside a joint. Well, I think it is definitely time for you to help doing something towards this. To find out what you can do, just write NORML, NORML,
1600 K Street Northwest, Washington, D.C., 2006. That's 1600 K Street Northwest, Washington, D.C., 20006.
Help NORML to help protect your rights.
This is Normal Show Live.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years. They've got mandatory sentences, and these judges just say, they throw up their hands and say, there's nothing we can do. There's mandatory sentences. We've got to take a look at what we're considering crimes.
When the Reverend Pat Robertson from television's The 700 Club
criminalizing marijuana, criminalizing the possession of a few ounces of pot and that kind of thing. I mean, it's just
makes more sense on the marijuana issue than the president, the Congress, and the Supreme Court.
It's costing us a fortune, and it's ruining young people. The young people go into prisons, they come out, they go in as youths, and they come out as hardened criminals, and it's not a good thing.
You know we're winning.
It's time for your daily Toker Tunes, the best in 420 friendly music from all genres that uplifts, entertains, and informs the public. Today we bring you tunes for Roots Monday, our celebration of the music that evolved into the popular modern music of today. We pick the best of blues, country, folk, and jazz with a 420 feel and serve it up for you every Monday. Brought to you by Cannabis Carry in Astoria, Oregon, and CannabisFantastic.com. If you'd like to submit your song to be played on Normal Show Live, send it to us at stash@normal.org. Now here's some more great independent marijuana music for today's Daily Toker Tunes.
I love getting to Roots Monday because we always get the most interesting tunes and some of the most interesting artists. And on this one, Lip Bone Redding. I don't even know what a lip bone is. Carrie, tell us more about it.
Well, before that, I wanted to say that last story. It was $70 an eighth, right?
Yeah.
It's not a quarter. $70 an eighth, $130 a quarter, $220 a half, and 400 an ounce.
For the Sheen,
For those
okay.
of you keeping score, yeah, for the Sheen. All right, but today, I do apologize for the drinking reference today, but it is Roots Monday, and when you play a blues song, sometimes you need a little depressant to help you out. Today's tune comes to us from singer-songwriter, guitarist, voice instrumentalist, and former Subway musician, Litbone Redding. His style is one part New Orleans swing and one part New York City groove. He uses talents he honed by working in the Subway for years without instruments to use his vocal sound that many mistake for a trombone. Redding is now joined by his two-man orchestra on this album called The Science of Bootyism. Today's song is typical blues, The Girl Left Me, but in Redding's own style, he is sending postcards from today's song called The Land of Drunk and Stoned. You can hear an example of Redding's vocal talents for sounding like a horn section in today's song, so listen for that. And if you want to catch Litbone Redding and his two-man orchestra, they play most Friday nights and Sunday afternoons at the New York's French Jazz and Blues brunch, the Jules Bistro on St. Mark's Place in the big city.
All right, that sounds good to me. This is a little Litbone Redding with The Land of Drunk and Stoned.
She dropped me off in Nowheresville, and she took back the house keys. The keys to her candy apple Porsche and her faded tight blue jeans. She said, I'm the only man she's ever loved, but the one she could not own. I'll be sending her a postcard from the land of drunk and stoned. She's got her world, her friends, her pearls. Lord knows I've got mine. My pearls are sweet wisdom. My friends drink too much wine. A subtle change, a sweet refrain. Those are my tear stains. And when all is said and done, it's this song that remains. So come on and while away these hours. We can sing our favorite drinking songs. The lights are shining bright, but there's nobody home. I'll be sending you a postcard from the land of drunk and stoned. Shining bright, but there's nobody home. I'm sending you a postcard from the land of drunk and stoned. Sending you a postcard. Ah, yeah. Sending you a postcard. I'll be licking that snap, baby. I'll be making a run to the all-night delivery slot.
song for your iPod? Check out the daily Toker Tunes at the Stash blog by surfing to stash.normal.org and choosing Media, and then Toker Tunes from the main menu.
Starfish Designs, makers of the original Gandalf.
I'm Radical Russ, and when I want to relax, I always have my 17-inch long original Gandalf from Starfish Designs nearby. The hand-blown borosilicate glass is strong and easy to clean, and the design is sleek and sophisticated. Starfish Designs are available from Bend, Oregon at a glass retailer near you. For locations, call 541-788-GLASS. That's 541-788-4527.
High in the Rockies. For the first time ever, High Times is hosting the Medical Cannabis Cup in the Mile High City, Denver, Colorado. Come to the High Times Medical Cannabis Cup. There'll be cultivation seminars with High Times editors Danny Danko and Nico Escondido, plus other experts and cannabis celebrities. Attend activism seminars with leaders of the medical marijuana movement, including advice on how to start your own canna business. Meet industry leaders in medical cultivation, hydroponics, smokable glassware, hemp products, dispensary supply, cannabis accessories, and more. Plus, Medical Cannabis Cups will be awarded to the best indica, sativas, concentrates, and edibles entered by legally operating medical marijuana dispensaries and growing collectives. And don't forget Saturday night when the Medical Cannabis Cup will host the extravaganza with surprise musical guests. The High Times Medical Cannabis Cup, April 2nd and 3rd, 2011 at Exto in Denver, Colorado. Visit medcancup.com for details. Be part of the growing cannabis industry. Come to the High Times Medical Cannabis Cup in Denver.
Legalization, decriminalization, lowest law enforcement priority, medical marijuana, ganja sacrament, consumer cannabis, industrial hemp. The world of marijuana law reform involves many different aspects of cannabis that interact nearly every public policy discussion in America, including healthcare, the economy, global climate change, law enforcement in prisons, immigration, religion, free speech, energy policy, and war. Now, we take a look at how re-legalizing marijuana will change the world in our NORML Show Live Cannabis Conversations.
Well, folks, we're really excited to have our next guest on the show. You probably know him as the harmonica virtuoso with the band Blues Traveler. He's also got a great solo career going on. We're pleased to be joined by John Popper on the telephone from Salt Lake City, Utah. John, welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going really good.
Hi, everybody.
We're so glad to have you here, and we're so happy to have your support for NORML. We've got you here today because you've got a concert coming up in Colorado Springs, and you asked NORML to have a booth there to help distribute information on marijuana law reform. John Popper and the Dust Gray Troubadours, March 10th at the Sodo Nightclub. Tickets are available at ticketleap.com. And John, do you have a website of your own that people can check out?
Yes. www.johnpopper.net.
Okay, johnpopper.net. And, John...
www.johnpopper.net.
Gotcha. And, we just wanted to know, your ideas and why you wanted to have a NORML chapter there at your concert. Has marijuana law reform been something that's been near and dear to you for a while?
Well, sure. Having been arrested for marijuana, I think that, I really want it to be legal. Use, don't abuse. And I think that that's a pretty standard attitude for most sensible people around the country, most adults anyway.
Oh, I was just going to say, when I was playing music professionally, I know that marijuana use was quite prevalent amongst the players that I knew. If you had to ask me who was a toker and who wasn't, the list of who wasn't was a much shorter list. Have you found that in your experience?
Yeah, but, after the Red Scare in the 50s, I try to stay away from lists of who's a toker and who isn't.
Oh.
Guess who doesn't. You'd be surprised who doesn't toke, and you'd be surprised who does. And the fact is, for some people, and I found this to be the case for me, that it can be a very hypnotic and spiritual tool in getting to a place that's, I want to say, not quite shamanistic, but you get to a transcendental place where the music can be a little more, I want to choose my words carefully, it's where the music can, it really takes most of your focus. It can really be vividly focused on And I think that can be a very useful thing. In fact, I'm at a place now where I don't need it for that, but it certainly is a wonderful thing to do.
Have the marijuana laws ever affected you or anyone you know personally? Have you known someone who's been busted?
Yeah, I busted with marijuana. I was smoking some weed in my car in 2007. In 2007, while my friend was driving my car 111 miles an hour, I was on my way back from Texas, and it was a moving day, and there were all these guns in my car. And what was funny is that what made news, what got me on the news, one of the most shocking moments, is that there were all these guns in my car that were completely legal. But what I actually was arrested for was pot, and no one cared about that. And it was like, I heard you got arrested for it. Like, upsetting or news-making. And what was illegal that no one cared about, I found that very frustrating. And I think it was funny because nobody cared about the pot. And that's actually what caused me all of the problems. I mean, when you're in a car doing 111 miles an hour, I mean, that's really the part where we were done. But, my friend was driving. I wasn't even driving. And it's because we're going through Idaho where there's virtually no speed limit. And you get used to driving fast because you can see well. And, you got a lot of visibility. You got 20 miles all directions. And I'm not saying it's smart to speed, but I'm saying that it makes sense when you're in Idaho to drive fast.
Yep.
But, I think that a lot of people go through this hassle. I think that, since the 60s, we've all seen the futility of that, and especially when you see the really horrible drugs that are out there like meth. I think heroin has killed a lot of people. Heroin has killed my bass player. Heroin has killed a lot of friends of mine. And I think that it has ruined lives. I think cocaine is a very damaging drug and is very destructive and stupid. And I think that crystal meth is one of those frightening drugs that just kills tons and tons of lives constantly. And in the wake of these drugs, I mean, most adult people look at marijuana and go, well, that's kind of silly that that is so criminalized. And, that's why I really applaud Colorado for the decriminalization efforts. And I'm kind of sad that California couldn't follow suit. I think it's kind of funny that California is sort of lagging behind because they were the real progressive state. They were the state that was really always leading the way. And apparently gay people and pot those are old issues, I guess, in California. I try not to stand on the soapbox. That's the thing is that, everybody sees these political issues. Everybody has their own opinion. And I tend to be libertarian about it, which is that, you don't want to tell people what to do because you don't want people to tell you what to do. And that's really what I'm saying about part here is that, I don't want to bother anyone, but I don't want anyone to bother me. And how do you do that with marijuana? I think it's very doable. I'm sorry, I was interrupting you.
No, that's okay. Love talking to you here. I'm just wondering, though, coming out in being kind of a high-profile musician and having this positive outlook on marijuana.
High-profile? Cool.
You are to me. And having this outlook and being open about marijuana and the need for the reform of marijuana, has this ever been a problem career-wise as far as getting your albums on the shelves or getting radio play or anything like that? Does your support of marijuana reform?
So. I think being a musician, people kind of expect it of you. I mean, I think there's sort of I call it a kindly bigotry where, you're a musician, you're supposed to be smoking pot. And believe me, I don't mind this sort of bigotry. There's this assumption that all musicians are stoners. And, I'll comfortably adhere to this sort of stereotype. Yeah, it's a stereotype. That's what it is. And, I think that it's unfortunate that all stereotypes are out there, but at the same time, I guess there's some merit to it. I mean, they come by these stereotypes honestly. But I've never seen it affect how my albums are placed or how people react to me. I think, I recently had this girl I know decide that I must be having sex with lots of porn stars. because, at a show, the porn stars would come to my show. And so, I must be some drug-fueled porn star guy. And, I just wish I was that cool. But, the thing is that I'm not. Maybe I shouldn't be telling you this. As far as, I'm having an orgy right now. But, the thing is, this is all well and good, what you think I do, what I don't do, what the stereotypes there are. But when it becomes an issue of getting arrested, when it becomes something that can affect your life, then it becomes a larger issue. And again, I'm a musician, so it's not like I'm landing airplanes or I need to, I need my doctorate in order to practice medicine or, I'm trying to get my architectural degree. These are things that really matter to a lot of people that I don't have to worry about. I don't ever get drug tested, or I'll never work in music again. That would be a very strange thing.
Yeah.
I'm very lucky being in an artistic profession that, people really don't care what my pee looks like or tastes like, whatever they do. But, I think for a lot of people, the vast majority around the country, this is a real problem. And that's the thing. I've talked to people in the military, and, I've gone to visit the military, and I really love the military. And I've talked to some drunks in the field, and if they do, the ones who've been there, overseas for a long period of time, if they do ever, succumb to the temptation of doing a drug, they tell me that the easier one to do is cocaine because it doesn't stay in your system as long, as far as drug testing goes. Now I'm thinking to myself, who do I want in charge of my Merv missiles? Do I want the mellow stoner guy? Do I want the tweaked up, coked out guy?
Right.
And I'm not sure. I guess the coked out guy is more alert.
There's that.
But the stoned guy is a little less likely to be so hostile. But, again, this is these are two bad options when you're talking about stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, I think that there's some professions where you shouldn't be under any sort of inebriant. But there are also professions where if you could drink alcohol, there should be a time and a place where you could relax with some marijuana. I think you should be able to.
Right on.
I think it's the exact same thing, and in some cases I think alcohol has more adverse effects than does marijuana.
Yeah. Well, you point out that nice kind bigotry about musicians and smoking weed. And of course we could list a bunch, Snoop Dogg, Willie Nelson, and so on. How come though there isn't some sort of we are the world for marijuana legalization? Get all these musicians together to make a high profile support for ending these stupid laws and ending this stupid prohibition. Why does it not get taken more seriously like that?
I'll tell you exactly why. Because like I said, the bigotry is kindly. And they're musicians, so they're probably high. If it was the kind of thing where it was a mean bigotry and musicians were being beaten for it. I think in the 60s there was that kind of, the bigotry wasn't so kindly.
Mm-hmm.
I think actually you can go back to the 50s when it was jazz musicians, or the 40s. Charlie Parker, when you couldn't stay in a hotel, we wouldn't have your kind here.
Mm-hmm.
It was that kind of thing. Then I think you did see a radical change in culture like the 60s. I think that's when it happens. I think when people are actually so fearful of other people that they don't want their kind around.
Yeah.
Started from a racial divide. Most of the drug laws that exist, pretty much all of them, started with some sort of racial fear. We don't want the black man doing cocaine because he's going to rape our white women.
Mm-hmm.
It was that kind of thing. Or we don't want the Asians and their heroin, their opium coming into our country. They all started that way.
Right.
Most of the drug laws started as some sort of Caucasian European fear of what will happen if the brown people start doing these drugs.
Right.
And that's really where they came from. And gradually we've intended to breach the racial divide. And I think that on some level, just as human beings, we've all sensed that makes us better as the human race. And I think that we're start to see that these drugs are just things. They're just chemicals. And chemicals aren't bad or good. They're chemicals. It's what you do with it. You could say television is bad for you, but you could watch television and get an idea that in the right mind could cure cancer. You could also take a television set and throw it out a window and kill a whole lot of people. It depends what you do with the television.
Right.
You know, same thing with a car. Same thing with a gun. That's why I'm always big on gun rights, because you could save a life with a firearm. You could do horrible things with surgical equipment. You know, it depends what you do with them, and that's really where, again, as a libertarian, I get really just sort of annoyed at people's ability to say this is bad. These are bad things. Now, again, you're talking about stuff like crystal meth. I really have trouble trying to figure out what good things you could do with them. I guess there's some sort of weird teeter-totter device that an evil genius has where a baby's hanging off a cliff and you need some more ballast to keep it from falling off. Maybe you can have like a couple of pounds of crystal meth to keep the baby from falling off the cliff. But that's a really extreme scenario.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
well, if you ever need to stay awake for 3 days and take apart a toaster, maybe.
Yeah, you could use the toaster as the ballast also. Yeah. But, I think that it really comes down to why is this leaf that grows in the ground getting people that are otherwise very decent and law-abiding, tax-paying, and who want to contribute to society, why does it put them in jail?
Yeah, well,
and that's the thing.
Well, I guess that's what.
Like, I didn't really go to jail. The amount of pot I did, I got fingerprinted, had to pay a bunch of people a bunch of money, and went on my way.
Yeah.
So again, the friendly stereotype allowed me to give them some money, and then it's all just part of the process. What about the guy who really wants to be a pharmacist and never gets to be one, or wants to be a doctor and never gets to be one, or so many minds that are wasted because of a stereotype of how wasted they must be off the pot. And these are things that are left over from a bygone area when ignorance was kind of the pervading force.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm wondering how we make that connection for people. I mean, you mentioned the kindly stereotypes and such, but for every John Popper who's fingerprinted and sent on his way and things go well, there's a lady in Oklahoma that we just did a story on recently who sold $31 worth of weed. She got 10 years in prison. How do we make that connection?
Jesus.
Yeah, how do we make that?
That is precisely what we're talking about here. Don't worry about me. Worry about the woman who sold $31 worth of weed and went to jail for 10 years. I mean, did she have a bunch of bodies in her basement?
No.
What else has she done? I mean, she's a member of her community. She's gone for a decade. And that to me is a travesty. That's just wrong. And I don't know anybody who thinks that that's right. Even probably the prosecutors probably felt their hands were tied.
Yeah.
They wanted to send a message to overall, maybe somebody's trying to get elected. We're in a country where the success of your prosecutions are based on the number of them. And so in order to keep your budget, these poor bastards go out and put everybody they can away as far as they can. And that's the wrong motivation. And that's a huge problem. And sadly, the only way we can bring this to people's attention is when they know somebody or when they have a story that, yeah, we knew that. When enough people know someone that this has happened to, that's really when change happens, because that's the nature of people. And it's sad, but I think that's the case. By talking about it now, we're doing what we can. But I don't see huge change coming until the public can't take it anymore. Mm-hmm. Or until there are enough of us from our generation who realize that pot is not the boogeyman. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I think there's still enough people that are from that time or have been affected enough from that time when marijuana was demonized. And that was, we're talking about the 60s. And that was from a throwback from a time when pot was demonized for a whole other bunch of reasons that ultimately have to do with the racial fear. And that's what we're still recovering from. It's amazing how generationally I don't want to use the word sin, but how just some horrible family secret, like a racial stereotype, keeps damaging the preceding generation. And here we are.
Yeah.
A woman is getting 10 years for selling $30 of a basically harmless chemical product.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
It is. We're speaking with John Popper. He's performing this Thursday at the Soto Club in Colorado Springs. Tickets are available for Thursday, March 10th through ticketleap.com. And John, I'd like to take this to the musical side here. Your group that you're performing here, the Dusk Gray Troubadours. Tell us, give us a little contrast between people who be familiar with your music from Blues Traveler. How does this group differ?
Well, I think it's a little subtler. It's more melodic. And I think that's really the nature of it, is that it is a contrast to Blues Traveler, because I love doing Blues Traveler, but we've been doing one thing for 24 years. It's kind of nice to have other things. The DJ Logic project I had about 6 years ago was a great example of something different, but this is something that, it's a little more planned, and I think that people are going to like it. It's something I've done with John O'Manson. Has been there since Blues Traveler came to New York City to start being a band, and he's sort of the kind of the musician who knew the scene and was kind of the king shit guy there. And he was he took us under his wing. Mm-hmm. And while we were going to music school as teenagers, for your freshman year of college, he was at night we hang out with him and open for him and learn how to sell blues to a crowd and keep them dancing. And so I've been looking for an opportunity to work with him forever, and it took us this long to really find a time that was good. And we went to a studio in New Mexico last year, and we worked on a whole bunch of stuff, and it was a really great opportunity for me to start co-writing. And that was a really fun experience. And we've actually taken that to Blues Traveler. In Blues Traveler's own way, where we got to the co-writing experience was so positive with the Dusk Gray Troubadours that, Blues Traveler started working with other writers as well. And that's kind of a really fun process. We just had a session in January where with Alejandro Escobedo and Kerry Rodriguez and Ron Sexton. And that album will be out next year for our 25th anniversary.
Excellent.
And so I figured this is a good year to go to the Dusk Gray Troubadours. It's such a fun feeling when the songs and we're brand spanking new as a band, and you hear people hearing these brand new songs, and it's not the Blues Traveler kind of ending where it's a huge droning sort of anthemic ending. It's a quiet little melodic ending. You start to hear their approval afterwards, like a little shock, like, wait, there's silence here, and then, hey, I like this. That to me is very thrilling. That's like being in a new band and trying something and having people like it. I'm very pleased with how much people have been liking this stuff.
Excellent. Well, we're looking forward to hearing some of it for sure. And looking back at your musical background, coming up, I listened to a lot of blues and I had great harp players like Charlie Musselwhite, Lee Oscar, even, in R&B, Stevie Wonder. Who are some of your influences?
Well, Jimi Hendrix, definitely.
Yeah.
And, the Blues Brothers got me into playing the harmonica.
Really? Dan Aykroyd?
And, yeah, that led me to Paul Butterfield, and I wanted to be a comedian before that, and so I was watching a lot of Saturday Night Live. So I saw the Blues Brothers, that got me into the harmonica. That led me to Butterfield, that led me to Muddy Waters, that led me to Jimi Hendrix. So after Hendrix, I kind of listened to everybody.
That's wild. Strangely enough, the Blues Brothers and Duck Dunn is what led me to playing bass. And you mentioned speeding through Idaho earlier. I'm originally from Idaho, and I can testify. You want to drive through that as fast as you can.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think I got my car up to 158 miles an hour there.
Wow.
Wonderful.
Well, I want to remind everybody the show is this Thursday, March 10th at the Soto Club in Colorado Springs, starting at 9 o'clock, and it's John Popper and the Dusk Gray Troubadours. You can get tickets.
And I don't drive that fast anymore, everybody.
That's right. We're all saved now. John Popper and the Dusk Gray Troubadours. Check them out. Ticketleap.com. You can get the tickets. And John Popper, thanks so much for joining us here on Normal Show Live.
Oh, thank Thanks for having me.
So good to talk to John Popper today. It's about 10 in the morning when we recorded that interview with him in Salt Lake City. And by the way, there are speed limits in Idaho, folks. 75 out in the rural areas. We're going to go out here with some music that John Popper and Blues Traveler donated to NORML for the Hempilation album. This is his cover of Sly Stone's I Want to Take You Higher. Yeah, I Want to Take You Higher. That's from the Hempilation album. I forget if it's Hempilation 1 or Hempilation 2, but these were made in, I believe it was 96 and 98. back when Steve Bloom was with High Times Magazine. He put together all these great artists to donate their music. We play a bunch of it on our Daily Toker Tunes replays that we play all day and all night long. Don't Step on the Grass, Sam, some Government Mule stuff. We'll play some of that in hour 2. We'll pull up some of the Hempelation tracks. I want to thank all those musicians who've donated. And coming up in Toker Talk Radio hour 2, we're going to talk a little bit more about the Charlie Sheen. We're going to go over my idea for Weed Are the World. Great, I'm stealing that from the chat room. Weed Are the World. For Ganja John and Cannabis Carry, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us. For those of you listening to the podcast, we'll talk to you tomorrow. For those of you sticking around, stick around for hour 2. Toker Talk Radio. We'll take your calls. And until next time, take care of each other, Tokers.
This is NORML Show Live, the voice of the Marijuana Nation.
Take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it.